Hello and welcome back to the Essex Allotment farm. It's an early start this morning. I've got my empty container. I'm going to collect some used coffee grounds from a local cafe, and then we're going to talk about compost. So for those who are familiar with my farm, you'll have noticed from that last shot that I have created a new composting area. The reason being, and the reason that I'm shooting this video today, is I'm taking composting a little bit more seriously this year, or from now onwards. I suppose the reason I'm doing it is one of the biggest expenditures I've got on the farm is compost. And as you'll have seen on people like Charles Dowding and stuff like that, they've got huge composting systems where they produce a lot of what they use on the farm. And we may also know that homegrown compost is pretty much better than anything you can buy, reasonably priced anyway, out in large quantities. So long story short, I'm waffling already, which bodes well for excellent vlog, is that I've moved my composting area from over there, where you can see those pallets there, which we'll talk about in a little bit on what they're going to become, to here, and I'm going to take composting a little bit more seriously. Seriously? Should I reshoot that? I don't know whether I should reshoot that or not. No, seriously. So for productivity and ease of use, I've taken one bed away from block A. So I'll be with one bed less in block A this season, and I've started this new composting bay system, which, as you can see, is really simple, and it's a 3-bay system at the moment, but it will extend down to this area here, and I'll go to at least 6, if not a little bit more. And the reason I've done that is, yeah, as I said, A, for productivity. It's inside the fence, it's easier to get to. There's central paths down here and in between each block, so it becomes really easy to get to. It's a little bit further up the block system, which is good, again, for productivity. But the second is these beds, if you remember last season, if you were familiar with my vlog for last season, they just really flooded. So what I've done is I've put some weed membrane down under some wood chip to try and prevent that, and that will now become my composting system, or composting area, as opposed to a bed that doesn't really get much success in it because it just gets too wet. The original system that I've started to dismantle will remain in place next to the shed, but a lot smaller. And this will be just for stuff that I'm a little bit more nervous about composting, so like weeds and bits like that, stuff that would perhaps compost a little bit longer, so all my discarded rubbish from the farm and stuff like that. As I said, I'm going to take composting a little bit more seriously this year, so I want to do some stuff in layers and really control what I'm putting into each of my new bays. So some of the waste from the farm will go in the new composting area, but it will be more controlled, as opposed to this is more of a dumping area for anything that I'm not sure about, and it will remain that way. So you'll have seen that I'm bringing in materials from a little walk up here, and obviously at the beginning of the vlog you'll have seen that I've gone and collected coffee grounds. I'm bringing in materials to help with composting, and I'll use them for other things as well, and we'll talk about that as and when I do use them for other things. But I am bringing in materials to compost what I'm calling properly. So the first thing behind me that I'm having dropped off in sacks to start off with, but when the rest of the bays are built, they'll go straight into the bays, is rabbit bedding. I've gone to grab some, but it's frozen. I'm very lucky to be able to get something like this. This is used rabbit bedding, which has got a mixture of rabbit manure, rabbit fur, rabbit urine, their hay or wood shavings bedding, and if it wasn't frozen solid, you'd be able to see it a little bit better. And it's varying different ages. Some of it's a bit older, some of it's got wet, and some of it's really, really new. So I'm getting about 60 bags of that every fortnight at the moment, and that's what's called sort of forming the foundation of my proper sort of composting system. And then this is a, I don't know, 10 litre bucket maybe. No, a 7 litre bucket that I'm getting every other day, sort of 3/4 full of used coffee grounds. And effectively what I'm doing, which I'll show you in a second, is layering coffee and the mixture of wood shavings and manure in these bays and leaving them to break down over time and compost. I'll eventually turn them and turn them down the bays as I, create more. So you can see there too that the top layer is the bedding, and then this one's ready for a layer of bedding because it's already got the coffee grounds on it. So I'm going to put the coffee grounds on this one here, and then put another layer of bedding on top of it, and the same with this one. So I hope that makes sense. So I'll put a layer of coffee grounds on there. I've now jumped down to where the rabbit bedding is to grab a sack of rabbit bedding, which is freezing on my hand because I haven't put my gloves on yet. And we're heading to the compost bay to put a layer on top of that coffee grounds. All right, chuck that down there, and I'll do that in a second. What I should say is, at this point, is first of all, the sacks, the guy that drops them off takes them back and reuses them, so that we're not using plastic over and over and over again. Well, we are using it over and over and over again. I suppose that's the point. We're not throwing it away and using new plastic every time. I will be adding more materials to this. So all this area, the other side of here, is just grass. And when I mow that down to keep it neat and tidy, I know that that will be a great nitrogen boost for layers of grass as and when I turn this, or as and when I build new bays. And of course, stuff like when the chard comes out, when the salad, lettuce stuff comes out, stuff out of the beds that, again, that I can trust and I'm confident is free from weed seeds and stuff like that, they'll be going in here for more nitrogen as well. So it will be a little bit more variety in these bins as the season progresses. But at the moment, I'm obviously not mowing the grass. It's frozen solid or too wet. I'm not taking much out of the field apart from prepping new beds and and maybe some weeding and bits like that. So I'm made the decision to put those over in the old composting bay for now and let them compost down really slowly, but really control what is going in these bays, with the idea that the composting system in here would then be a little bit quicker, a little bit more controlled, and I don't necessarily have to worry about it, how hot it gets to kill the weed seeds. It will get hot anyway. It is already getting hot, even in this weather, so it shouldn't be a problem, but I don't have to literally check and worry about weed seeds being in these compost bins. That's the idea anyway. And there we have it on top of the coffee. You can see underneath we've now got a nice thin layer of the rabbit bedding, and that's the process I've used to build these compost bins, or fill these compost bins so far. This was the first one I've done. You can tell that it's a bit older. I mean, you can't really tell because it's frozen solid, but I'm trying to do this one-handed, but you can kind of tell that it's starting to look a bit older and a little bit more composted in the middle there, as opposed to the fresh stuff that I've just put on. And then obviously that was the second one I did, and then I'm halfway down that one. I just put another layer on that to top it up where it's been compressed a little bit. So yeah, you can see, if I take this out there, that if I grab some of this, it's already started to compost down quite nicely and break down. So the process is working, and this first one's probably been full for about a month, I would say. So yeah, it's not going too bad at all. One of the things that I haven't decided if I'm going to do, or what I'm going to do yet, is whether I'm going to cover them or not. I understand why people cover them so they don't get too waterlogged, but using my old compost bins that I didn't really take much care and attention with, and just let them compost over the first year, or it compost over the first year. I'll go and try and show you it in a minute. They were uncovered and they've made some really good quality stuff. So I'm not too sure. I might just use plastic or tarpaulin or some weed membrane or something like that, just to sort of manage the amount of moisture that gets in them. But as far as a permanent structure with a permanent roof, a bit like Charles, if you're familiar with his channel, I'm almost certain I'm not going to do that. But we'll see how things go. If, you know, I'm no expert. Let me know what you think. But yeah, that's sort of my plan for covering it so far. So back over to the old bin, and I literally haven't added anything to this in about 2-3 months. So I haven't had to dig down that far to see. Oh, I mean, look at that worm activity. Oh my God, it's absolutely rammed full of it. You can see that uncovered is creating some real good quality compost. Oh, look at that worms. So yeah, I'm not too fussed about whether it's covered or not, really. Okay, so as always, let me know what you think of my composting system that I've got set up. I've given you a little insight on what I vision it looking like in the next month or so, with a few more bays, and how I'm going to deal with composting this year and see how it goes. So yeah, let me know any thoughts, any questions in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.